Meanwhile, scientists have been calling for a new investigation into the origins of COVID-19. The latest World Health Organization China report on the origins of the coronavirus coming under scrutiny once again. A group of 24 scientists from Europe, the US, Australia and Japan have issued an open letter demanding a broader investigation into the report. The open letter, first carried out by the New York Times, pointed out that the study's conclusions were based on unpublished Chinese research. It added that critical records and biological samples that could provide essential insights into the pandemic origins still remain inaccessible. Joining us on the broadcast this minute is Nikolai Petrovsky, a professor of medicine at Flinders University in Australia. He's also one of the signatories of the open letter written to the World Health Organization on the COVID-19 origin probe. Thanks very much for speaking with us here on WION World is One. If you can elaborate for us what the demand is and the reason why you thought it's important for you to come together with those scientists and issue this open letter and raise this demand.
Well, as you've already identified on the program, this pandemic has caused, unbelievable global damage, suffering, deaths, economic disruption, and we don't know how this pandemic started. So the world is entitled to a full and proper investigation to get to the bottom of, how did this pandemic have its origins? Was it, as some people believe, a natural event where there was a freak transmission of this virus from a bat or another animal to a human? But also to investigate the other possibility. Could this somehow have been related to some of the research being done in China on these bat viruses? And so we believe there needs to be a very open investigation into how did this pandemic start. Was it a natural event, or was there some form of human involvement in the release?
Right, and as you're telling us, the demand also is for China to disclose the information for the lab hypothesis to be proven. The scientists have requested for the probe involving biosecurity and biosafety experts conducted either by the WHO or another group of nations to study about the virus origins.
Yes, so I think that people have to realize that the WHO themselves have said that what this panel was not an investigation. So they're actually now being very clear that they did not conduct an investigation. What they did was review some of the Chinese studies that had been done by the Chinese scientists, but obviously these only looked at some aspects of how the pandemic might have started. And so we believe there needs to be an independent, properly formulated inquiry that needs to be undertaken to get to the very bottom of how did this start, and was there any involvement of any of the labs in China or elsewhere in the start of this pandemic.
Yes, but at the same time, China has not been forthcoming when it comes to releasing data. It says some of the data cannot even leave its borders. So how optimistic are you that this information will be revealed?
Well, I think, the answer is the world is entitled to know how this pandemic started. And I think, we need to start from that position. There have been close to 3 million deaths so far, and we still are only halfway into this pandemic. So every country is entitled to that, having a proper investigation. And we don't believe that China is entitled to obstruct such an investigation. So what we need now are mechanisms which allow global bodies to actually insist that their investigators be allowed to go into China and review all of the data that may be relevant to this investigation. Not just see the data the Chinese want us to see, but actually allow us to see all of the data that may help us to identify the source of this pandemic.
Nikolai Prodowski, appreciate very much for joining us here on WION World is One. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.